We hope you've learned a lot in the course, and tonight will be the culmination. We will have a competition creating a recipe, and like Top Chef, your group will be given an ingredient on which you will build your masterpiece. Tonight will be our last class. As the other classes, our session tonight will begin with prayer, and we'll have a scripture-based theme. And tonight you're going to receive a brand new crock pot and a pantry starter kit, but more on that later. You made it! Let's review what we've covered so far. So week 1, we covered how a slow cooker works and crock pot safety, and we learned the 5-ingredient method, and then we talked about general cook times for the slow cooker. And then last week, week 2, we talked about the benefits of slow cooker cooking and some tips for the crock pot. And then we talked about do's and don'ts, and then how we layer ingredients. And then we converted a recipe. And then we talked about other food and non-food items prepared in the slow cooker. So let's talk about what we're going to cover tonight. Just like our prior 2 weeks, Pastor Adam will have say some words, and then we'll begin with an opening prayer. After we're done with our prayer, we'll sample some taster meals, and tonight we'll be featuring appetizers and side dishes cooked in the crock pot. We'll also discuss using and repurposing leftovers. And then we'll also talk about what does a well-stocked pantry look like. And our small group exercise for tonight will be entitled Rockin' the Recipe. So let's get started. Let's begin with prayer. Pastor Adam? I wanted to give you some suggestions for using and repurposing leftovers, and I wanted to give you those suggestions into 4 areas or entree areas. So for example, the first category I would like to recommend is using your leftovers as a soup. So you could add a can of broth, chop up the meat, add vegetables and a grain. So you could even stretch the recipe out farther by adding barley or pasta or rice. And then when it's cooked, serve it with bread and a sprinkle of Parmesan. Another suggestion might be to make a pie. So this would be a great idea with leftover meat and gravy. So make in a pie pan or a cast iron skillet, and by adding bite-sized meat and gravy, and then add complementary vegetables and seasoning if needed, and then top with a pie crust or a cornbread batter or even biscuit dough. Then bake as the biscuit dough or pie crust or whatever is directed, and allow to cool for 5 minutes and then serve. Another entree suggestion is pockets. So don't make something that's too runny. So you would take, if you had gravy or tomato sauce or cheese sauce, mix your meat and your vegetables in that gravy or sauce, and then use a pie crust or pizza dough to make the pockets. And then you bake and allow them to cool 15 minutes before eating. Some suggestions include veggies and cheese sauce in a pie, or meat, mushrooms, and gravy in a pie. Maybe meat and barbecue sauce, pizza toppings in a pocket, marinara and cheese in a pocket, meat flavored with Mexican spices, and then you could add salsa and beans and cheese. I'm getting hungry. Another suggestion would be a casserole. So a simple recipe might be for you to take your pre-cooked meat, your leftover meat, add a veggie and sauce, and then a grain, and then a topping, potato chips, cheese, something like that. And then you would bake it at 350 for 30 to 45 minutes until bubbly and brown. So the less meat and veggies you have, the more cooked grains you can add. So you might want to try adding barley or quinoa or rice or pasta or even wheat berries to stretch out that recipe. Again, for toppings, you could try cheese or breadcrumbs or crumbled crackers or crumbled cereal, wheat germ. And then these are just some suggestions for by food type. So if you have leftover pork, you could make pork taco nachos using pork, canned pork and beans, cheese and chips. You could also make pork taquitos. You could use your shredded pork inside corn tortillas, roll them up, bake them in the oven, and serve them with a dollop of sour cream. And I do this quite a lot, which we'll talk about in a second with chicken. For your leftover beef that you made in the crock pot, you could make beef fried rice. So you can dice your meat, stir fry it, add veggies, and a sauce. You could also make open-faced beef sandwiches, so you could slice that leftover beef and put it on top of bread with onions and leftover gravy. And I cook chicken a lot, so this last category, I have a lot of ideas for that. So if you have leftover chicken, you can make chicken soup with carrots and celery and onion and egg noodles and chicken broth. Or you could make chicken corn enchiladas, taking shredded chicken, roll it up in a tortilla, add corn, cheese, and enchilada sauce, and bake. What does a well-stocked pantry look like? Well, if you have a well-stocked pantry, it really makes your cooking so much more efficient. We have included 5 ingredient recipes in your workbook that use readily available ingredients. And these are some things that you may want to have on hand that appear frequently in those recipes. So water, milk, butter, vegetable or olive oil, salt and pepper, some common spices rather, like cinnamon or ground red pepper, paprika, garlic powder, or even oregano. If you have some all-purpose flour and granulated sugar, that really helps a lot. And you may also want to consider some soups like condensed soups, like cream of mushroom or cream of celery or cream of chicken. You might want to stock some broth like chicken or beef or vegetable broth. Also some dry soup mix like onion or beefy mushroom. And then some tomato products like tomato sauce or canned diced tomatoes. There's a lot of recipes included in your cookbook that use gravy mix. That's that little 1 ounce powdered envelope that you can get as brown gravy or au jus. Some other things might be rice or noodles, barbecue sauce, boxes of like stovetop stuffing, so 6 ounce stuffing mixes, salsa, taco or fajita seasoning. That again is another 1 ounce envelope of powdered seasoning. And then while we're right here now, let's distribute the pantry starter kits